Welcome to episode 2 of Unrealistic. Unrealistic podcast. The podcast, the only podcast by savages for savages. So,
Am I a savage?
No, you're not a savage.
Oh,
You're a fucking loser. But so a little bit of a background, right? So just an introduction into us. The reason, first of all, the podcast is called Unrealistic is because I fucking hate whenever people tell me to be realistic, right? So that just a little bit. I mean, the whole reason being, the entire premise of being realistic is based on the assumption that your future is dependent on your past, which is not fucking true at all. It never has been, never will be. But everyone assumes that like the limitations that you've experienced until now also determine the course of the rest of your life. So if you were shy up until now, it's not possible for you to not become shy. Or if you couldn't, you didn't work out until now, you're just gonna be the rest of your life, you're not gonna work out. Or like, as if people can't change, as if people haven't already done impossible things. The whole concept of being realistic is just so, it goes to show how limited the human mind is in terms of, long-term progress and all that shit, because human brains think linearly, right? We assume like, this week I'll be, I'm gonna make five calls this week and then 10 calls next week. But in all reality, everything in the universe happens through compounding. So if you pay attention to a lily in a pond, the first day there's maybe one lily, second day there's 2 lilies, 4 lilies, and then 2 weeks later half the pond will be done, and then 3 days after that the entire pond will be filled with lilies. So and you'll see that same concept in everything in the universe. It grows through compounding, but the human brain just can't process how far you can do things over the long term. So the human brain can't process, like, people always overestimate what they can do in a day, but completely underestimate what they can do in a week. Or people, take that even further. People always overestimate what they can do in a year, but completely underestimate what they can do in a decade. In a decade, bro, like you could be. So all these people that like, that we idolize as a society, like, they're all regular people. These are human beings that all have 24 hours in a day. These are human beings that all, have emotions, have families, it's not like these are like demigods that they just don't have any fucking issues. And the Elon Musks of the world, the Steve Jobs of the world, the Kobe Bryants of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the LeBron James of the world, the Conor McGregors of the world. As you can see, I have fucking pictures of all of these people on my wall. Like, it's I don't believe in talent.
I think the problem with that is everyone thinks that they're immortal. Like they were born with this God-given talent that, hey, I'm gonna do this because like God was all like, Conor McGregor is gonna be the greatest UFC fighter or
bro,
whatever.
If you guys watch the on a completely unrelated note, watch the Conor McGregor documentary. It's Notorious. By the dude, like literally like 3-4 years ago was living on like welfare, and he was just like, fuck it, bro, I'm gonna be the best, #1 UFC fighter in the world. Like, there were not even like people from Ireland in the UFC. He was like, nah, fuck that, I don't care, like whenever everyone tells you it's not possible and then you do it anyway, that's when you become legendary. Kobe was not the reason that I really like, I love Kobe more than Mike, because I know Mike definitely put in the work, but Mike had some physical prowess. Like, Mike was flying when there was no one else doing it. Mike was a Lamborghini. Kobe's a Honda Civic, bro. Kobe wasn't the fastest person. He wasn't the tallest person. He wasn't the the most athletic person. Kobe just outworked everyone. So the Elon Musk, bro. Elon Musk wasn't like just this fucking born genius. Like, if you hear his story, like he was like, nah, I'm gonna, I think living on Mars would be fucking cool. So let me dedicate the rest of my life to doing that. And then just he's like, all right, what the fuck? Like, so so there's this quote that it goes, the reasonable man adapts himself to the world, and the unreasonable one persists in adapting the world to him. So I think that's the heart of everything that we're trying to do here is don't ever limit yourself. So the first thing that I try to do every single morning, right, is there's a Tony Robbins thing. I kind of copied it from him, but Tony Robbins, like, he talks about first thing he does in the morning is he doesn't really meditate. He calls it priming. So first thing he does is get in state. So he'll do like some physical exercise to kind of bring his energy level up, And then he'll sit there, you know, be deliberate about being grateful, be deliberate about being humble, and then be deliberate about being limitless. And that's not the way he said it, but that's how I think about it. So I want to so gratitude, right? Gratitude is the most powerful emotion. Why? Because fear, doubt, shit like that, you can't coexist with gratitude. You can't be complaining, but also be grateful at the same time. So when you're grateful, it's the antidote for all the bullshit that your brain is like focusing on. Just by being grateful, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Put things in perspective. Like, shit could be so much worse. Like everyone likes to think about all the shit that other people have that they don't have, but they don't like to think about, you know, how much more opportunity you have and then potential and stuff like that. Number 2, humility. Understanding that like, you know, your goals are, you're just, again, like Aman mentioned this on our podcast yesterday, right? You're just a speck on the earth, and Earth is just a speck in our solar system, and the solar system is just a speck in our galaxy, and our galaxy is just a speck in our universe. And like, that's honestly, like, you literally, like, I have written on my wall, bro. It's like, note to self, you're not that important. And like, what does that mean? It means that everyone like starts thinking about all their own problems and all the shit that they can't do and all the shit that they want and all the shit that they you know, just all their dreams and their insecurities. And like, when you start focusing on all of your shortcomings, or just focusing on yourself, most of the time that's what leads to depression. When you start focusing on other people, like it's very hard to be like, for example, if you're like, oh, you could be making $5K a month, you'd be like, no, I'm not making enough money because there are people making $10K a month. And if you're making $50K a month, I'm not making enough money because people are making $100K a month. And if you're making $5 million a month, you're not making enough. So you're always focused on yourself, and you're never gonna reach the top, bro. I was actually watching a documentary the other day about like the classes of billionaires, right? And there's a lower class billionaires who are the motherfuckers who are like worth $1 billion, but they can't, all their shit is tied up in shit, so they don't actually see that money. And there's middle class billionaires who are are people like Jeff Bezos, who they're actually the wealthiest people on earth in numbers. And then there's like upper class billionaires, where those are like your oligarchs, the people who are like basically run the nation state, where you can't even really tell their net worth because they literally are controlling these countries. Like, they can fucking print money from the treasury. So they're like whatever they want. They have like the biggest yachts and shit. Like, their yachts are, you know, the sizes of entire football fields. And it's when you start focusing on yourself in relation to everyone else, like, you're never going to be satisfied. Your ego is a hole that it can't be filled, right? So I mean, that was a complete ramble that had nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about today, but it was just an introduction into you know, the concept of being unrealistic, why you should be unrealistic, why you should fucking persist, and, you know, I mean, and the whole reason that we're doing this podcast. So anyway, so the theme of today's podcast is weightlessness. What am I talking about? Not weight loss. So weightlessness. So whenever I think about weightlessness, like, something that I try to actively pursue throughout my day is feeling light. I want to feel lighter. So if, for example, whenever you're thinking about a car, right, and people just want to hustle more. Everyone's trying to hustle. Everyone's trying to out hustle everyone and shit like that. But when you're just fucking putting your pedal to the gas but your car has a parachute behind it, you can floor that car and you're still not gonna go anywhere. So the reason that the hustling isn't like, I mean, hustling, of course, you know, hard work is important, effort is important, but hard work doesn't always pay off, is because we place limitations on ourselves. So we all have, you know, the metaphoric parachute behind us that we kind of need to cut the strings to before we can really take off. So, okay, what do I mean by that, right? We're all weighed down by the burdens of expectations, the burdens of what we think is possible, the burdens of, you know, attachment to outcome, attachment to possession, fear, doubt, shit like that. And weightlessness is essentially teaching yourself to detach from, I mean, I'll give you guys examples, right? So whenever I say like an emotion that I try to you know, deliberately cultivate every single fucking morning is limitlessness. It goes back to like how you felt when you were a kid. When you were a kid, bro, like you weren't thinking about what's possible and what's realistic. All those things develop as your ego developed over the years. When you're a kid, you don't really have an ego, right? So there's no mental voice telling you like, that's not possible. That's not, know your fucking place, stay in your fucking lane, like, like you're not
use your imagination.
Yeah, you have your imagination. Kids, like, if you ask a kid what he wants for Christmas, like the kids, to quote Tony Robbins, like the kid will be like, bro, I want a fucking swimming pool. In fact, I want 2 swimming pools. Like, I want one for me and one for you. Like kids are completely limitless in terms of their imagination, in terms of what they think is possible. And then as we grow up, we, for whatever reason, we let go of our dreams, and we let go of, we start putting governors on ourselves. So, if you guys are familiar with a car engine, all these car engines, they're required to put governors on these engines. So, the engine, whenever a car is racing, or whenever you're like flooring a car, it'll top out at like 120 or whatever. The engine can do much more, but there's an electric device in that car engine that stops the engine from producing more torque than is necessary. So it can't go more than 120 miles per hour. And then, some people get their cars, they get the governor taken off, and then the engine can really fucking do, its max. But to relate back to that metaphor, we put governors in our own brain in terms of what we think is possible, and what we think is realistic, and what we should accomplish, and and what people might think. So in terms of being limitless, for me, being limitless is the same as being egoless, is the same as being weightless, is weightlessness. So whenever I'm talking about all these things, they're interchangeable words, right? So weightlessness.
Question.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Were you ever at a point where, like, how did you know that you had an ego? Did you like have a self-realization with yourself, or was shit not going your way? And then part 2 of that question is, what's the process of getting rid of that ego?
Love it, bro. So there's certain things that, like, whenever we talk about being in flow, right? Being completely engaged in something, being completely immersed in something. Your brain is not thinking about future, it's not thinking about past, it's not thinking about what's possible, like blah blah blah, like all these bullshit fucking thoughts are not. You're completely immersed in something. In that moment, you're weightless. You're not burdened. So why people love shit, like, for example, like me and you, we hoop, bro. Why do people love basketball? While you're hooping, you're so engaged in what you're doing, you're not thinking about the fucking what should I do with my career. like what is my boss gonna say tomorrow? Like you gotta guard the guy in front of you, or you gotta fucking cross it up. Like either one or the other. Like I'm completely immersed. Why do people love sex? Like while you're having sex, bro, you're not thinking about shit, bro, I should have said that in the conversation earlier. Like, why? Oh, man, I really fucking missed that opportunity to make a really great joke. Why do people love, smoking or drinking? Again, same reason. You're using external things to change your state, and then kind of dip below the level of thought. And so your brain is not thinking about, your fears and your doubts and your insecurities and your constraints and all the problems that you manufacture in your own head. And so your brain you're kind of in the moment. So all these drugs, like, sex, basketball, these are ways that humans use to turn off their own brain. So, the healthy way to do that is obviously meditation, is learning to detach from your own thoughts, right? Learning to stop entertaining. And it's not, when I say detach, it doesn't mean stop thinking. It means coming to a realization that your thoughts are not your own. So, for people who are like, no, I fucking think shit. Yeah, for sure. Like you can definitely create thoughts, but you need to first of all understand the difference between inbound thoughts and outbound thoughts. So you're maybe only deliberately generating maybe like 5 to 10% of the thoughts that you think throughout the day. The rest of the other 95% of your day is reactive. You don't know where the fuck that thought came from. You know what I'm saying? You didn't think I need to think about what, to be insecure. Like you saw something, you saw a pizza, and you're like, yo, I love pizza. And then your fucking brain jumps to, hey, remember the last time we had pizza? You're like, oh, fuck, my mom yelled at me. And then you're fucking, you're all over the place, bro. So your brain is just,
bro, that is, I don't know why, but that is one of the most accurate stories right there. Just the pizza story right there. Like, I can literally remember when that's happened to me, because that's exactly how my mind thinks. My mind is all like, oh, remember that one time I had pizza? It's kind of like shiny object syndrome too.
Yeah, bro.
It kind of relates me to that. But
exactly. So I mean, there is for example, I think a lot of people are the whole thing with insecurity is we set impossible standards for ourselves, right? We're like, I don't know if we talked about this on a podcast or we were just talking about this randomly, but people have this mental perception in their head of a perfect person. That perfect person does not exist. You know what I'm saying? It's just a compilation of, oh, I want that guy's nose and that guy's ear and that guy's her lips, and like I want to be
on our weekly podcast every Saturday.
Cool. Yeah, exactly, bro. So I mean, that's exactly
about how the brain works. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, so there's no perfection doesn't exist, bro. So you're chasing something that like it is a unicorn. I mean, no offense to unicorns, like unicorns might exist. I don't want any fucking unicorns watching this podcast to be mad at me, bro. But
wait, hold on.
Like, but you're chasing. So first of all, you have to embrace being imperfect. You have to embrace the child in you. And I'm not talking about like, I mean, I guess I am talking about the inner child bullshit, but like when you're cultivating that childish, like you have to be Kanye West, bro. Kanye West is the embodiment of everything that I'm talking about right now. Like he was like, cool, I'm gonna fucking be the greatest rap producer. Did it. Cool, I'm gonna fucking completely fuck up the shoe industry. Did it. Cool, I'm gonna fucking completely fuck up the dude. Kanye is just like, people are like, now he's like, dude, I'm running for president. Like, fuck you gonna do about it? You know, like, and people are voting for him, bro. Like, people are voting. He's on the ballot in 12 states, and he can be written on.
He's not even on the ballot in what, like 38 states, and they have people writing him in, bro.
Exactly, and you can write him in like 17 others. So like theoretically, this year it's possible for Kanye to become president. Like even like without all the states that don't even let people vote for him, he doesn't even need those states. Like it's crazy. And Kanye, dude, he went from like whenever you hear him talk, it's all. I mean, you hear someone who's arrogant. And again, there's a thing called NLP where it's kind of like studying the whole human brain and why you do shit. So something from NLP is one interesting concept is things that you see in other people, like 95% of the time is something that you're projecting. It's something about yourself that you don't like. So when you see someone else doing really well, you're projecting arrogance. You're like, oh, he's doing that because he's arrogant, because you don't like the arrogance in yourself, right? So when you see other people do good and you're envious of that, that's resistance. But I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. We can talk about resistance later. But so what you like being weightless is, so I mean, I'm gonna give you guys some tangible ways that I actually just wrote down 5 minutes ago from being weightless. First of all, it's the embodiment of everything is life. It's all a game, bro. Like, don't take anything too seriously. Nothing is that serious. So like, I always relate everything back to playing basketball. Like, do I want to win? Yes. Am I trying hard? Yes. If I lose, you know, are they gonna give me shit? Yes. Like, do I fucking like winning? Yes. But like, I don't really care if I'm shooting my shot, bro. I don't give a fuck if there's two people on me. Like I'm gonna shoot the shot, bro. Like, so, and I don't care if it goes in, it goes in. If not, like, it's a game, right? We're not taking it that seriously. So you need to approach like your career with that same attitude. You need to approach your relationships, like everything that you just go for it. Like, it's a game, bro. And this is actually something that we talked about a couple of weeks, I think personally. So there's two options, right? It's okay. We live in a spiritual world. You know, right now it's all, we're just in our human body is a temporary thing, and we die, and then there's heaven, all that stuff. And then there's the other alternative where this is the only life we get. After we're dead, it's over. Either way, it doesn't fucking make sense to be realistic. You know what I'm saying? Either way, it doesn't make sense for you to fucking, you know, conform to what everyone else is doing and play by the rules and blah, 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 blah. Like, in this game of life, every game has a boss, right? There's a villain that you're trying to beat. Otherwise, I don't know. Like if you're a fucking Mario and there's no, you're just fucking running around. Like it's like when you're playing GTA and you're not really fucking playing any missions. You're just running around just stabbing people. Like if there's no mission, bro, like like that's essentially what your life becomes. So
He's not wrong.
When you have a purpose, like it becomes a game. And then what you have to understand is that the enemy in the game is your own resistance. You know what I'm saying? So the only person limiting you is your ego telling you. And again, you have to, so let's completely stop the spiritual side and talk about it from a biological point of view. Your brain evolved. Your brain doesn't give a fuck about your goals. Your brain doesn't give a fuck about your dumb fuck dreams or aspirations. Your brain has one purpose. Your brain's purpose is to keep you alive. As long as, and help have, procreate, you have 2 kids, and then, so as long as you can like fuck and have 2 kids and like then just fucking coast, your brain is happy. But you don't want, but like you have to understand that like you're
how do you ingrain that into your brain where you make your brain have the same goals that you have meant or that you have?
So you're in alignment, right? Alignment. I mean, it's definitely gonna be. I don't think there's ever like a person that's gonna be completely in alignment where their brain is. I definitely do think you get to a point where staying where you are, you have to. I mean, think about the cost of inaction is something that we talk about all the time. People always think about like how awesome shit would be if I really started working out every day and I ate healthy and I really got shredded and shit, like. But you have to understand, if you understand biology, like your brain you'll do a lot more to not have to pay a $10 fine than you would to get $10. Like if I said, hey bro, if you give me 10 push-ups right now, I'll give you $10, like fuck off. But if someone's like, yo, you did a drive, whatever, and if you don't do this shit, like you have to pay the $10 fine, like you'll do more to not lose something than you would to gain it. So I mean, of course we'd all love to have a 6-pack, but you have to think about what you would be losing if you don't put in that work. So if you're not putting in that work, you're losing the potential for a greater future. You're losing your health right now. You're losing, and then even making those connections in your brain, where as if like, not only if your health suffers, your relationships are going to suffer, because you're not going to have the same energy to talk to your wife. You're not going to have the energy to have a great day of work and then come home and listen to your daughter talk about unicorns for fucking 45 minutes. And do you want to be the guy who like tells his daughter to like, hey, shut the fuck up, unicorns don't exist, Santa Claus doesn't exist because you're cranky because you had a shitty day at work? Like your exercise, your health, your fitness. So once you start making those connections in your brain of like, oh, if I don't do this, I'll lose this. Like, okay, your brain is like, oh, cool, pain is the number one motivator. Pain is a lot stronger motivator than gain, I guess. And so there was so it's really learning to detach from, because I mean, I guess the best way to be weightless is to be completely present, right? And so that means, so all negative emotion, it either comes from regret, which is when you're fucking living in the past, or anxiety, which is you're living in the future, or like frustration. Like if you're completely centered in what you're doing right now, it's impossible to have like a negative emotion, right? And it's not even impossible. Actually, let me rephrase that. Also, it's important that you for example, like you understand emotions are the spice of life. Like everyone wants to be happy all the time, which is fucking stupid. Like trying to be happy all the time is the equivalent of wishing for it to be sunny all the time. If it was sunny all the time, like we'd be in a drought, all the crops would drown, we would die of starvation. Like we don't want it to be sunny all the time. Like, so you emotions like, sadness, blah, 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 like those are natural parts of life. But so there's a difference. The difference between pain and suffering is pain is inevitable, but suffering is because you weren't, suffering is a choice. Like if you're in pain and you're thinking like, okay, I'm in pain, it is what it is, like, okay, you're in pain, but you're not suffering, right? Like, because you completely accepted things the way they are. But if you're in pain, you're like, man, fuck, I wish I didn't feel pain, blah, blah. Now you're compounding that bitch. You're making things a lot worse in your head. Because most of your fears are imagined, and most of your struggles are imagined, and because most of your pain is imagined, or suffering is all internal. So when you detach from things like for example, there was something that we were talking about the other day. Is like, what you want to detach from rejection, but on the same side, you also want to detach from other people's validation, right? You want to like, so for example, everyone is like seeking praise, but like anytime they get any sort of rejection, they're like, oh, don't fucking, you don't have to care about fuck him, who cares what he thinks? But at the same time, if you don't care what they think, you also you're not trying to impress them either. So at the end of the day, the only person that you're accountable to is yourself in the mirror every day when you wake up in the morning or every night and before. If the only person that you're accountable to is yourself, first, that's your detachment. You're detached from other people's validation. Detachment from outcome, right? You have to first of all surrender that they're 99.9.9. I said point twice, so it doesn't make sense mathematically, but that'd be a fucking error. But 99.9 of life is out of your control. Like, you could be doing everything right and get into a car accident tomorrow and die. You could be doing everything right and then your fucking mom could die. You could be doing everything right and you could be completely paralyzed. Like, there's a lot. I mean, even where you are right now, bro. Like, my parents moved here from India to give me, like, if I was raised in India, bro, like I'd cry, but like, it's not, it's not that you don't have the same.
But the crazy part is, you only say that you would cry right now because you know what life in America is like.
Exactly.
So people in India right now, they're like, this is life.
Hey, India's the fucking
actually best. They're like, this is life.
Yeah. No offense to Indians either. I love India and unicorns. If any unicorns are watching. Yeah. But
right, cool.
I mean, so you got to detach from so fear of failing. Like, failure, failure is good, bro. Failure is again, like, you've been brainwashed in the school that fucking every time you fail, you get an F. Your parents fucking beat you and shit. I mean, if you were in my family, like, your parents beat you and shit, and like, so you're just like, no, fuck, I can't fail. Like, failure. But like, in real life, there's literally, like, your brain is processed to like keep you alive again. But the society we live in, our brains are outdated. There's nothing that in the society that we live in that could actually kill you. But your brain still reacts in the same, like, for example, if you see a really cute girl and like you get nervous, like you literally are fucking paralyzed, like, oh, I should go talk to her, but you don't. It's because your brain is trying to keep you alive. But like, logically, that doesn't make sense, right? Is this fucking girl gonna, hey, what's up, I'm Akash, boom, stab, dead. Like, like she's not gonna fucking, slit your fucking throat and kill you, bro. Like, so there's literally no, so fear of, like, for example, us right now, bro. Like, me, graduated engineering major, like, decided fuck engineering. Like, my best friend, we started a marketing agency. Everything is, but like, at the time, what were my parents saying? Like, dude, you're fucking throwing your entire life away. Like, what do you mean? I can get, if it doesn't work out, I can get another engineering, like, I can get an engineering job 1 year from now. You know what I'm saying? Is it gonna be tougher because I don't have a year of experience? Yes, but like, would I rather, spend my entire life not knowing if I hadn't tried? Like, it's not, so when you think about it, like, when you put things in perspective, bro, like, shit just makes so much sense. But in the moment, everything.
Just to touch up on what you said about failing, right? I guess the point you were trying to make with failing is that in order to succeed, you need to fail, right?
Yeah. What does fail mean, Akash? I'm on.
Oh, bro. So I have this hung up right here.
Is it right there?
Fail is an acronym. It stands for first attempt in learning. You can't learn without failing. That's what it is.
Dude, again, like, your ego grows as you grow older. But for a little kid, bro, like a kid's trying to walk, right? And the kid stumbles the first time, and he's like, man, fuck it, I'm gonna just stay on the floor like the rest of my life. Like, I'm never gonna figure out how to walk. No, bro, the kid is gonna get up again and then try to walk again and then stumble again and then get up again and then try to walk again, and then get up again and try to walk again. So kids are not afraid to fail. Like, we teach them to fail. For example, like, fear is like, for example, bro, like, if
honestly, the best example you gave, at least from my perspective, was the whole thing about, going up and talking to a girl, right? That was literally like what's the worst that's gonna happen, right? And
you're never gonna talk to her again, and she doesn't like you. Know what I'm saying?
I don't even think it's the fear of what she'll say, but
generally you do that when you're like around like your guy friends or whatever. And
Even if
like,
you're alone, bro.
But like, let's say you're around your guy friends, right? And like, it can also be fear from how they're gonna think about it. So fear of being roasted, or fear of this and fear of that, you know. So it's not necessarily like fear of the person, like fear of the girl being like, nope, and then you just walk away. It can also be fear of what other people think about you. So you also need to kind of, you know, kind of what we were talking about before, is just embrace yourself. You know, you can't expect other people to like, you can't, I forgot what you said earlier exactly, but you said something like, you know, you can't expect people to also praise you, but then when they shit on you, you know, for them to, you know, not shit on you.
Yeah, completely detaching from validation is even more important than detaching from rejection, bro. Like, because when you're trying to impress everyone, you can't truly be yourself. The same thing is like detachment from expectations. Like so for me, like I feel like one rule for me is like, I can always decide what I want from my life, but the only things that are outside of my control are how I get it and when. You know what I'm saying? You can always get to where you want to go, but you can't control the timeline. Timeline is not in your control. Like shit. I mean, a lot of times, like, it takes a lot longer than what you everyone wants to be like, yo, I'm gonna fucking start a company and it's gonna be we're gonna make 7 figures in the first 3 days. Like, you know, it's like it should, you know, it's gonna take me. But I mean, if you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is where I'm gonna go, and I don't give a fuck how long it takes, like, whether it's 3 days or 3 years or fucking 30 years, like, I'm still gonna do it. You can always get to where you want to go. You can always get to where you want to go if you can, you know, you're willing to put in the time and the effort, or well, whatever. So detachment from expectations, like, it's basically, you need to cultivate also curiosity. Like, instead of being like I guess another antidote to fear is like, when you're cultivating curiosity, like, you're like a scientist. Hey, I wonder what will happen if I do this. Right? So, okay, now it's like, hey, I wonder what will happen if I go and I talk to the girl. Like, it's not like, yo, I'm gonna talk to the girl and I'm gonna get her number, because then you're attached to that outcome. And then the attachment to outcome on the flip side is also like, now you have, anytime you have attachment, like, again, to quote Buddha here, like, attachment is the root of all suffering. So anytime you're attached to something, at the same time, it means you also have the fear of losing that thing. So attachment to possession, right? Like, people get rich and then they can't enjoy being rich because now they're spend their entire life fucking worrying about, man, what if I lose all this money? Or people have all these possessions and they can't enjoy their possessions because now they're worried about losing their possessions. Like, once you understand that everything in your life is rented, everything, including your own body. Will you own your own body in 100 years? No, bro. It's gonna go back to the ground. Like, you're gonna be decomposed. You're not. So your own body, your own life, like, everything is rented. So like, you can't ever truly possess someone. Like, and people try to possess everything. People try to possess, like, their wives. Like, she's mine now. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? She doesn't belong to you, bro. You don't ever possess anything. You can only experience it. So you're experiencing a relationship. You're experiencing growth. You're experiencing suffering. You're experiencing struggle. So it's I think that comes down to being weightlessness is essentially, all in all, learning to detach from outcome, detach from expectation, detach from validation, detach from rejection, detach from circumstance, detach from your own identity, and even detach from what you think should happen, and always, being super playful. Like, yo, this is a game. Let's find out what's gonna happen. When you can cultivate that curiosity in your life, like, yo, I want to know what's gonna happen. Let's find out. Then fucking life is gonna be super cool, bro. Try to spend as much of your life as possible in flow, which means like you're completely immersed in what you're doing. So whatever you're doing in that moment, that's what you're doing. If I'm walking to the other side of the room to like grab a water bottle, my secondary purpose is trying to grab a water bottle. My primary purpose is walking, like this step. You see what I'm saying? So once you can be like, you're living, and again, even we were listening to a Matthew McConaughey podcast yesterday where he was talking about like, when I wake up, my shit, everything is, I feel burdened, right? So I feel like everything I have to do in a day is just stacked on my shoulders, and it's, and then I figure out how to make that shit horizontal, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I got to do one thing, and then I got to do another thing. Like, you're essentially all the things that you have to do is like an hourglass, bro. It's like you can have all the sand in the fucking world, but you can only do one thing at a time. So what is there to be stressed
this
about?
fucking hourglass, bro. You love hourglasses,
bro.
don't you?
You can only do one thing at a time. So like, what are you stressing about? You don't have to do like a million things at once. Like, for example, if I showed you all the food that you ate in the world, ate throughout your life, and just fucking just a giant country, a mountain of food, and be like, you gotta eat that shit. You'd be like, what? But like, bro, you don't have to eat it all at once. Like, you're eating one meal a day for the rest of your life. So you can only do one thing at a time, and then whatever you're doing in that moment, be completely, and that's how you become weightless. All right, thank you, and have a God bless America and no place else. All right, all right, bye. I'm just kidding. I love everyone. Bye.